welcome to Campaign Comrades, your favorite leftist gaming podcast. I am your host, Ben, and we've got all the comrades in the house today. Matt, Mike, Andrew. We are here doing Mike's episode where he got to dictate the choice to all of us, much to all of our chagrin. We are talking about Pokemon here. But before I hand it over to him, I don't know if we've maybe like obliquely referenced it in the past about our history together, about how we've all known each other since at the very latest like middle school, because our school district, we all, some of us have known each other since elementary school and
come
beyond
back together.
Yeah, we all were in like different disparate elementary schools that then came together back in middle school. So we've all grown up together. We've all we went to high school together, and have obviously stayed close enough to start this venture afterwards. But we have for you something special for you fine listeners at home today. Our first ever guest, and this is another fellow comrade from our time growing up in central Connecticut. As we were in this beautiful suburban town. But we have our first guest for you. Joe, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Hey, thanks for being here. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Long-time, first-time. We love having you. We love seeing that, the long-time, first-time pipeline paying off in dividends. But basically, we had to bring you on here today because if we
needed support.
If you weren't here, Mike would just probably go like hang himself after this episode.
I'd be kissing myself afterwards.
Just like
depressed that my friends hate me.
He needs some support here, or else it would just be 3-on-1 haters. Just he can't handle it. He needs the backup. So I'm happy that you're here. Giving Mike some solidarity with fellow Pokey nerd. Shit. So it's going to be a battle between you two. Who's the bigger Pokey nerd?
Mike and I have been together since age 6, since first grade, second grade, elementary school. I've appreciate the invite. I've grown up with Pokemon basically on my mind as I'm going to turn 30 in July. It's basically just been Pokemon for 30 years. So
join the club.
Same.
yeah, ready for this.
But I guess before I finally do throw it to you, Mike, to start us on this lovely journey that I just can't wait to get into. I gotta ask though, just to get me ready and just build up my own tolerance here. Has anybody else been playing anything besides Pokemon lately? Anything interesting to
turns out this is an Elden Ring and Pokemon podcast, and that's all we've been playing.
I mean, speak for yourself. I'm playing the thing that I played Elden Ring over last year. I've been playing Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah, you and I swapped with that. You played Elden Ring, I played Horizon at launch. And then each of us then a year later have played the other.
Well, I've started. I'm close to saying I played.
Yeah, because you got to get in those 6 gyms.
Yeah, it counts.
I actually had the 7th when you moved the date. I played one more hour to see if I was close enough to finish the game. And then when I realized I was being sent on a mythical fetch quest, I was like, nope.
Yeah. Nope.
That is the end.
That is my least favorite part of that game. I think I'm stuck in the same spot because I'm like, I don't want to fucking do this. Just give me the end game content.
All right, fair enough. So I guess Mike, take us on this journey.
Here we go. I'll obviously let you guys get your shitting on me out.
Oh, it's going to be peppered throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Don't think you can just hold it to one area, one zone. This is an open zone shit on Mike game. Right?
This is not a safe space.
This is open zone. We're not normalizing open zone as a.
It's too late. It's too late. It's too late. The Sonic team got me.
But yeah, so obviously talking about Pokemon, which celebrated 27 years of Red and Green in Japan this February. The biggest game in the world, going strong almost 30 years, continuing, releases at least once a year of their mainline games, missing like 2 years in that span. But as we know, and as we'll make fun of me for, and the other Pokemon nerds, these games tend to sell, and
20 million copies in 2 weeks or whatever the fuck the number was.
Yeah, no, crazy numbers, just selling on nostalgia. Because as we'll discuss, at least in the new games, the development has kind of been trash. Scarlet and Violet is a broken game for the most part, and the fixes haven't really done much.
Do you know what the delay was from the original games from Japan to US release? Because I know like a lot of its history was started much earlier in Japan. I mean that's a common.
I mean, it's only 2 years.
Thing.
It's not
that's not
a
that
big
bad.
Yeah, it's not a big jump at all, because we're 25 years of Pokemon in the US, so it's only a 2-year difference. So to me that's largely just feeling out the market, translating,
time to do localization and stuff like that.
Right. You had to weed out the titties on the cards, because first you had to weed out Misty's tits on the cards, and then after that there was the seizures from the anime show, and so you had to weed those out and get that in the Japanese market first, figure out where what goes wrong.
Yeah, they always
bright
lights. Japan.
Yeah, too many bright lights.
Flickering way too fast.
Wait. There were titties.
Yeah.
The original
full
cards,
on titties, not full on
titties. Pokemon
right.
censorship
Pull 'em
wasn't
in.
as bad as
Pull 'em in,
Yu-Gi-Oh
that's right.
censorship, but it was still pretty bad.
Yeah, there wasn't as much to censor in Pokemon as there was in Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh had a lot of waifus that they needed to cover them titties on.
Well, they also didn't allow like any other religious emblems to be shown. Lots of stuff being changed to crosses.
This is like a safe space for nerds, right? Is that kind of what's going on here?
Other than me.
So to educate those who don't know, Misty's Tears was a 1998 Pokemon card that was a trainer card of her hugging a Starmie, and it just had her perky little breasts out there.
Just pushed up as she's hugging this thing.
So we had to edit that card for the English.
I'm gonna Google that.
Yeah, Misty's.
I'm looking it up right now.
And in Yu-Gi-Oh, that was literally the same thing. It was just cards where there's like boobies and a face, getting pushed up,
skirts
and a belly
need to be
showing.
a little longer.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, despite making broken games in 2022, 2023, games that look like they could have been released on the N64, it's the top selling franchise, brand in the world.
The largest media property in the world. I'm just like constantly.
It's crazy.
It's gonna be my refrain throughout this episode. It's just the Breaking Bad meme, except it's the Pokemon company can't keep getting away with this.
Well, and what's crazy to me is,
I mean, all of the coverage around Scarlet and Violet initially coming out, and then like a week later when it was like 20 million copies have been sold, and it's just like, no.
20 million copies have been sold despite like game crashing constantly, which knock on wood, I haven't had any of those issues. But and one of the big things for me, and honestly didn't have enough time to go into great detail looking into this, something I would like to do later, is it's the biggest media property in the world, and the rights are split between 3 different entities.
Yeah,
there's Game Freak, Pokemon, the Pokemon Company, and Nintendo. And obviously with property rights, you will learn in property law class that property rights are like a bundle of sticks, which I always thought funny because of
they're calling property is the F slur, folks.
Yeah,
exactly. But the point
also
being
the
that
British refer to cigarettes as
yeah.
But the point being though that like property rights are like you have property rights in different things in different context and formats, and you bundle them together, and they could also be split apart. So like this money is getting spread around. It's a large sum regardless where it's getting spread, but there's a lot of different hands in the pocket here that are splitting that up and making decisions. So Nintendo obviously has like the brand trajectory. They probably have like the final say brand wise.
They're the publisher, so
yeah,
what publishers say goes.
Merchandise wise, I'm sure the Pokemon company has more of a stake, and our the final line of defense, things like that, or not defense, but in some cases defense with a brand. But it's just amazing to me that these three different, and at least two of them are really large. Game Freak is the smallest in those three by far, but have just been so successful for almost 30 years, and that success is not going to go away. And in the expansion of games and adding different entities, Niantic for Pokemon Go, I think they may be doing Pokemon Sleep as well. And just the expansion.
Go brush your teeth, you filthy fucking gremlins.
Yeah, the expansion of like the Pokemon as a brand.
It's amazing what you think about what this says about their fans, that they need to create apps that make you walk, brush your teeth, and sleep.
Well, see, I think that's less of a. The brush your teeth one is very funny. That one is the most kind of dystopic, but like, it's less about like speaking about the fans, right? It's more about the nature of content in this age. It's in order to
maximizing your brand.
Yeah, in order to maintain their hegemony over being that largest media property, the logical next step in late stage capitalism is becoming a wellness brand. That's
and
that's how you get the crystal mommies.
And you make fun of the the fans, rightfully so, but the Pokemon Go brush your teeth, at least for me, I see that marketed more to like
I thought you were about
actual
to say
children. No, I see that being marketed more to it's like the actual children fans, where Pokemon Sleep and Pokemon Go are definitely a larger audience.
Pokemon Go was a wave.
Let's be clear.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. Pokemon is for babies. And if you're a fan of Pokemon,
what a wild statement.
Yes,
you
Thank you,
if you're a fan of Pokemon, you are just a different version of a Disney adult. No. That's my thesis.
I mean, I tend to kind of agree. I tend to, in the general sense, agree with you. But it's like, because it's not that it's a franchise for babies, right? Because my contention is that the actual children in its demographic are the extreme minority in all senses.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
correct. Like these games are not actually for children anymore.
The merchandise,
you said when you went to Best
I even
Buy.
push back on that. We are in the Funko Pop generation, I mean, look at me back there. I've got like 3 Nintendo plushies on my shelf.
Like the stuffed animal when you go to Target or whatever, that a kid is going to see that and buy that, and I think like there's more of a market there, and that's obviously where they make a lot of their money.
Oh, I mean, absolutely, merchandising is where.
I don't doubt that there's also adults buying those.
Prove me wrong, Mike. When you went to Best Buy to pick up your copy, they said, "How many of you are here to pick up Pokemon?" I distinctly remember you saying that it was a bunch of like older middle-aged
dudes just all raising their hands.
Me in a suit, raising my hand, some like Hot Topic style, like late teens, early 20s, like with a skateboard, and just some like other regular looking people, and it turned out that everyone in that line was waiting for Pokemon.
The Disney comment is still under my skin because I just went to
the truth hurts. The truth hurts.
I went to Disney Paris last year, and like I went because I love my wife and I'm a supportive husband, so I'll go to Disney or whatever, and I'll waste 4 G's. But like to compare somebody like me who will breed a perfect Abra with perfect IVs and then EV trainer to have speed and special attack to some slack jaw looking at Mickey, like furious.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. This is why I invited you.
It takes skill and dedication to do that. It does not. Yeah, it does not take much.
That's fair. There's
more
to it.
Seal.
That's fair. That's fair.
Battling,
the magic is back, folks. It's like Disney defeated COVID. The magic is back.
All right, I'll give you the skill. There's some more there.
Well, and also, like, in my own defense, I think Disney adults, like, I could make fun of myself, a Disney adult.
Oh no!
Okay, that's also a fair counterpoint.
I could understand that I'm a little weird that I still play Pokemon or whatever, but a Disney adult is not making that.
No, you are in no.
Disney adults are planning
weird.
multiple trips a year to multiple parks, spending multiple thousands of dollars. I don't know. There's a different level of.
I spend like max $100 a year on Pokemon.
All right, fine.
My big question with it though comes, I already know the answer to my question. It's money. It's just like the yearly kind of crunched release of Pokemon kind of flies in the face of most of Nintendo's other marketing and distribution, right? They're the publisher that loves to sit on stuff.
Are all kind of.
They love to sit on things, waiting for the right moment. They're not stressed about, being on the top of the charts. The only thing they care about being on the charts of is Switch sales. But
part of the reason they needed that yearly turnover is, once you get the merchandise and the anime, and that really gets going, and becomes as popular as it did, they needed. You couldn't release a new Pokemon in the anime without having the new game come out. So there's like creating this symbiotic environment where they almost have to, for the other content to continue to be good, the Pokemon series, you can't just have the same old Pokemon, that gets boring, whatever. So the new
150 is a lot.
Yeah, but they end up, I feel like they
canonically, once the eternal 10-year-old gets his Pokemon to level 99, what else is he gonna do?
Once they built up this kind of like rolling, every year, every few years, and at the beginning it was every few years, and you also have that gap from localizing it from Japan to the West in the earlier years. But once it gets like the Pokemon machine gets rolling, where they're releasing a new season every year, Ash is going to a new place, whatever, they want more Pokemon because they want to sell more merchandise, they want to sell the shows, they want to make new movies, because the games are the base for all that, they can't have they want to sell
new
games.
Cards without new Pokemon.
Exactly. So
let me ask this: when did games first start releasing DLC in general?
Pokemon games or just
games
in general?
Like 06-ish, I think.
Oblivion
might be a little earlier than that. Do you count? Well, like if you count like World of Warcraft, then it's probably like 2001
those are expansions, which is like a weird.
So right. So if we say mid to late,
a quick Google here says that in 1997, the computer game Total Annihilation contributed to the rise of the DLC concept by distributing free monthly downloadable content.
I would say it became popular in late aughts.
Yeah, exactly.
If you look at the timeline of Pokemon, there are 6 years where they didn't release a game, and that's 97, 01, 03, 05, 07, 11, and 15. That was the pace that Mike was talking about, where you could breathe. A game would come out. Ruby Sapphire came out in 2002. I didn't talk to my mother until 2004. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Had a chance to go and like play the game. But then as collectively, and maybe this is a little deep for the podcast, but as the attention span shrunk, we started to see DLC. The first DLC Pokemon released was in 2020. And so if we're saying that DLC came out in like mid to early 2000s, it took them 20 years to get to the point where they're like, you know what? We can't make a game. Let's just launch a DLC. But that's where, at least I saw the fun and the value of the game start to go down, was with Sword and Shield, and then into Arceus and Scarlet Violet.
Well, so Arceus, they haven't had a DLC, but you bring up a good point, Joe. There are reasons why there are those gaps in their where there was no game those years. And Pokemon always had their own version of the DLC model in coming out with the third game. So, all the way back to Red and Blue, you have Yellow comes out.
Yeah, it's way worse than the DLC model. It's the whole fucking game again.
Let's buy a whole nother.
It's so good.
But it depends. So in Yellow, it's the same game, except you have Pikachu following you around, and Pikachu is harder.
It's so sick.
Yes, I understand that the third game always has some tweaks, but I'm saying like it's worse than DLC in the fact that you have to buy a whole another game again.
I disagree so hard.
So they do that all the way through Platinum, which is the 4th generation. So that you have Yellow, Crystal, Emerald, Platinum are the third games, and those games all only ever sold 33% of the sales of their original version.
Because people's parents are be like, no, I'm not literally.
I already bought you Pokemon.
Yeah, I bought you that game already.
and also like the marketing around it would be, they didn't put as much into it.
How much time would pass between the originals and then the third game release?
Under a year.
But it was never the same time, right?
No, never the same time. It's always after.
Yep. I distinctly remember Yellow was like a year after Red and Blue.
Yep. Same with Crystal, was like a year after.
Because that was the big
Emerald.
argument with the parents.
And one of the reasons in like 05 that there was no new game is because like 4 fucking Pokemon games came out in like 04. Because I think Emerald came out in 04, so 2 years after Ruby and Sapphire.
And so did Fire Red and Leaf Green
exactly.
in 04.
Yep, exactly. So they had a lot in 04. They didn't do anything in 05.
That also the Shadow Coliseum, Shadow Lugia GameCube game year.
Yeah, but they don't count that may be. I'm not sure if that's when it came out, but these
The
gaps
core
are in
series.
the main line. Yeah, the main
core
line
series.
games.
Yeah.
And so in Generation 5, after Platinum only does again 33%, they moved away from that model and they did sequels. So you get Black and White, and then 2 years later, I think you get Black 2 and White 2, which
also known as Too Black, Too Furious.
Which arguably like some of the best games in the series, all 4 of those. And when they did do those sequels, it is a new story. It's set in the same place, but it's a completely new story. So it is a sequel. And those games did 55% of the sales of the originals. So they saw an increase and they went with that model. So you get,
what console was that?
3DS. Sorry, DS. So
that was later in the DS lifespan.
It was
that
the
was
last
like
one.
DSi, DS Lite.
Sure. And Black 2 and White 2 came out when the 3DS had already come out, and Game Freak made the conscious decision to keep it on the DS rather than moving it to the 3DS.
Well, of course you could still play DS games on the 3DS, right?
Yeah, they did it because
Yes.
Pokemon has that swagger, and they can release a game like that, and I'm still gonna buy
So
it.
like, yeah, we're releasing it on last gen only.
Yeah, no, exactly. But it was like the beginning
sure the 3DS
of the.
played DS games.
No,
so
It did.
You're right.
It did, but people had the DS console already. It was early in the cycle of the 3DS.
Yeah, when it falls like that, it's like you're at the very least going to get cross gen. So,
Yeah. And this was hard to do cross gen because of the 3D aspect of it.
right.
So then they go to X and Y, which never gets a sequel, never gets. Oh, I'm sorry. They go to
Never gets a
Sun and
third
Moon.
either.
Was
No,
Pokemon
you're right.
X and Y
was first.
was Pokemon X and Y them doing gender science? This is
Yeah, it
Pokemon
is
for
like
boys.
DNA
This is
Pokemon, I
Pokemon
think.
for girls.
But yeah. So then they go.
Because
to
there was
Sun and
never the
Moon.
mythical Z.
Yeah, there was Zygarde.
Or just
they
Well, no, but like
or
there
just-
was never a game dedicated to it.
Yeah, no, there wasn't, and that's what I said. They scrapped that model largely because of the issues with the 3DS, with people like getting sick and whatever, and just other weird things. But also, and this is the important part, also at that time, Game Freak is like, hey, we make a lot of money off Pokemon, but we got all our eggs in one basket. Let's try to get funky with it. we only have 40 developers on staff.
And boy, does it show.
We have games coming out on this new console. Pokemon is still black and white. Kind of had like a revival of Pokemon. It dies down in X and Y again. So Game Freak's like, hey, let's start this incubator program. You got an idea? You want to try it out? We'll give you some resources and we'll split our 40-person team up so that you get some.
That's how we got things like Little Town Hero.
Yeah, which I think is actually later. But
it was a Switch game.
Yeah, Little Town Hero is after they did this incubator thing, which, funny enough, I read an article yesterday. They're starting this up again, where they're going to split their development team so that half of it is devoted to Pokemon and the other half is split between however many games. And granted,
it's just like, yes, how can we make Pokemon even worse?
Yeah. Granted, they outsource to a lot of like consultants, independent contractors, whatever. So there is more people working on it, but they're also working on it in like siloed divisions.
The shame that they'll never end up working with someone like Monolith Soft or something like that. You can actually build them a beautiful world.
I'm just picturing 10 people just literally shackled in a grain silo. Underground. You must make a new Pokemon.
Make Pokemon now.
And then, run out of ideas. See this key ring? It's 3 Pokemon.
Like, have two animal name generators going.
A chat GPT bot. They're just chimeraing animals together.
Yeah. They're gonna hire Logan Paul and his zoo, crypto zoo NFTs to make them. But Matt, you brought up not Harmon Knight. What did you say?
Monolith.
No, not Monolith. The Game Freak game.
Little Town Hero.
So the 2 games that became popular during this incubator era time, which was like 2012 to like 2016, is Harmo Knight and Tempo. Tembo, the badass elephant.
The badass
Ripple Knight.
Yeah, Japanese naming is so much better than American naming.
Hey,
that's how we've ended up with an anime about people reincarnating as vending machines.
Nice. Both these games came to America, and at least Tembo had some success. It got ported to the PlayStation, Xbox, and I think it ended up becoming a mobile game. Most of what they developed during this time ended up getting turned into a mobile game.
The trend.
They did go through that. Nintendo in general went through that phase of like, well, the phone is really cool.
Yes.
It was like Pokemon Go, Mario Run. There was a Fire Emblem one at one point.
So, Mike, what year is this?
This is 2012 to 2016.
Okay. All right, because I got some numbers to lay out, and I have some questions for you and Joe.
Go ahead.
All right, perfect. So we keep talking about how this is like the biggest media property. Just to give it some clarity there, it's pretty ridiculous. I found financial stats for the Pokemon company. Game Freak's private, so it doesn't report anything. So this is the best we'll do, but it's pretty illuminating. This is 2021. They haven't reported their 2022 sales yet, but in 21, Pokemon Company made $1.6 billion US dollars in with gross revenues of 700 million and a net profit of $325 million. That's just the Pokemon Company. So that's not factoring in necessarily the 3 owners like other
Nintendo and Game Freak
earnings from Pokemon. And that was a 70% sales increase from the year prior and a net profits increase of 122% from the year prior.
Well,
and we're
they
talking
didn't
about
release
21.
They didn't release a full game in 20. In 19 is Sword and Shield, and then the DLC for Sword and Shield came out in piecemeal. Like once one of it
was also the beginning of the end of Pokemon Go. and they're beginning to wring the neck dry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they also, and during that time, they had expanded radiuses on Pokemon Go, so it did have like a jump in popularity again. But the 2020, all they released were 2 DLCs, one in like July or something, and the other in November. So that doesn't surprise me that they didn't make much.
But here's the thing: their 2020 numbers were previous highs.
Okay. All right. That's yeah. I mean, because they're selling Sword and Shield
bananas. It's crazy. Pokemon, that's a huge amount of money to be making from one property. So those are just some of the financials that I was able to find.
Stupid. Like it kills me. Why during 2012 to 2015? Like, even if that was a low point in Pokemon, it's even at that point, you knew it was not going to be.
Low point? What do you mean? Designs such as Trubbish, the sentient garbage bag, and
no, but I mean low point in like sales and popularity, and that's the reason that they cite for trying to diversify their holdings and start this incubator.
Taking a lot of shots at some great Pokemon over there, Matt. You better watch your mouth.
Yeah, really. But yeah, okay. I mean, it's crazy to me that Game Freak, honestly, it does make sense. They put shitty development into it. They fucking make a broken game. They're still up 70%.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they don't have to, but it is crazy to me that they would remove resources from the most popular game of all time. Still sell is like one of the best selling of those games is Black and White. It's the most like critically acclaimed. They like completely changed the formula.
Well, to me, it's always the inherent contradictions of capitalism, right? Because you think like, oh, this is so profitable. It already makes so much money. If you put more resources into it, it would logically make you more money, right? But that would seem to be the logical sense, and like would seem to on the surface follow the capitalist model of infinite growth and all that. You put money back into it, but no, it's all about cutting costs and rising profits. It's you have to hit both of those. So you have to try to get as much as you can. Sure, you could maybe get more, but you can get as much as you can while spending the least amount of time, effort, money whatsoever on it. So like it's
a balance. You gotta find that center.
So that's what we're working at.
Totally true. So I have a question for both of you, Mike and Joe, as the two Pokemon fans here. Mike, as an admitted button pusher and masher through all of the dialogue, what attracts you to playing this year over year? Because you say the game, like, they've made changes. The game I played felt the same fucking way as what I played back in 2000. So like, what is attracting you to coming back to this every year?
So specifically what I meant by the changes is Black and White and Too Black, Too Furious. They changed the some of the things, like they wouldn't be changes to you as a casual player. That you would know.
Wow, he just called you a casual.
You're just a casual.
It's a fucking dirty cash.
But that
we here at Campaign Comrades do not endorse gatekeeping unless it works on my agenda.
Those games are the only ones that actually have a good story. And that's why they're like critically acclaimed. Like, they have a story that you don't necessarily want to button mash through.
Which critic, like for my own notes, which critics are claiming these games? So I can put them on a list.
Is this the one where they do the splash screen and it's just internet usernames? Like
random
what was
Twitter
the guy
user.
who got the first Steam Deck MILF Hunter?
Yeah, MILF Hunter 69. Yeah.
No, I mean critically acclaimed. There probably has been like articles. I don't know exactly who, but then YouTubers as well. But
Gene Park, the guy with like a squiggly puff or something in his AVI.
Okay, hang on right here.
I'm pretty sure he's got Kurt. I'm pretty sure it's
Mike.
Kirby.
Is it Kirby? Yeah, it's Kirby.
In the core series of games, right? What is your personal favorite? What is your favorite core series game?
Mine's largely built on nostalgia, but there are some other reasons I do like this game. But Crystal is definitely my favorite.
Pokemon Snap.
God damn it.
Not a mainline series, but a very good game.
For me, it's Emerald, right? And I think it's interesting that it's that third game for both of us. But like for me, it's Emerald because they had the battle area and stuff.
Yeah, that's probably my second favorite.
Yeah, and it was a combination of the two. But Ben asked, who's critically acclaiming this? If you want to listen to IGN, if you want to listen to them, they say it's Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And I think that this is something that Pokemon, we're talking about, oh, what are they doing? Now it's more storyline intensive. Now it's like kind of 3D. And then you're riding a dragon who's a bicycle. And that's pretty weird.
Yeah,
but
it is weird.
Why
that has wheels but runs?
And you gave it a sandwich or something. I really don't like Scarlet and Violet. Not a big fan. But it's Heart Gold and Soul Silver because of the 2 regions, right?
Yeah.
And
that's why I like
they will dangle
Crystal.
it in front of our face until we are 60 years old, and we'll pay honestly whatever. But if they release a game that had all 7 regions in it, and then once you prestige kind of like Call of Duty into the next region, you have to deposit your entire Pokemon box and you start back over at level 5, and you can't get those Pokemon again until you prestige out of this next region, then Pokemon will reach peak Pokemon. And I think that's what we all want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
which means
or just dynamic scaling and have everything just not have a cap.
No, we'll never.
I want level 900.
We'll just keep getting DLCs, and there's already 2 DLCs planned for Scarlet and Violet, and there's rumors of a third. And Sword and Shield did too as well. And it's just like so back to Andrew, your question about button mashing. The story sucks. There's no story. It's all about battling. It's about collecting the Pokemon. To me, at times, it's also just an escape. Like it's a mindless thing that, while if I need to dissociate, I could fucking run around in Pokemon, battle some Pokemon, whatever. It's kind of mindless. To me, it's, I'm not a TikTok Zoomer. I'm a Pokemon millennial. Instead of just scrolling TikTok, I'm just running around trying to breed
I feel like,
an adamant Charmander with 6
I feel like it should be Minecraft instead of TikTok, because you play Pokemon like Zoomers play Minecraft.
Sure. But yeah, so I think the story is obviously the biggest issue, and that's even amongst Pokemon fans. That's a big thing. There are some projects. I sent Ben one. I was watching a YouTuber that was like going through the timeline of Pokemon. No, I'm sorry. I was talking about Arceus. And I'd sent it to Ben because that's what he had played. And this person was trying to, start his own project of like doing voice acting over Arceus, because Arceus.
Oh my God! If they had added, voice acting to those games, it would elevate them so much.
And there's a lot of
even if the story is still doo-doo, like it would pull me in to some. It's just like pay some voice actors, we know
they're cheap.
The union minimum. Yeah, we know you don't pay them a lot.
You can find some college kid and make it their passion project.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's what like this YouTuber's trying to do. And I think I'm kind of following it. I want to see like where it goes, because I think it's interesting, because that game in particular, they did, though the story isn't great, they did try to highlight the story more than they do in other games. And it was the 3D, it was the these new sprites and things, yada yada. They had opportunities to do this voice acting and they didn't. And the same thing goes for Scarlet and Violet, especially. And that's part of the button mashing. I don't play Pokemon games with the volume on ever. I never have, never ever. Because
you're missing like the only part that's good about them in the music.
I know, but I was always like also playing it like in places where I couldn't have the music on, or like playing it
like the sound is how they really get you. It's like the sound of your Pokemon healing. That ding 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 ding.
No, I mean, I do still know the sounds, and I've played with them before. But I mean, majority
they're playing in your head without the music on.
Yeah. Some of
that's the real autistic superpower.
See, I don't play Pokemon for the storylines. I will also button mash through it, but like Mike, think about some of the highest adrenaline you've had playing Pokemon, and you're gonna be like, how do you have adrenaline playing Pokemon? The first time that Pokeball shook on the third shake to catch your first Chansey in the Safari Zone, like tell me you weren't running around your bedroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or like throwing a first Ultra Ball at Zapdos in Red and Blue or whatever, and like catching it on the first try, and not having to waste your Master Ball. Or
imagine not having duplicated your Master Ball to 99.
Right. And then Andrew or Rick probably wouldn't know this, again, dirty casual, but like the first time that you see a shiny in the wild, like a random shiny pop up, the adrenaline's through the roof. There's like that, and then like straight heroin in your veins. Same thing. You're like,
did I save? Did I fucking save? Am I gonna die? Am I gonna kill this thing? It's very
and you want to talk about feeling that like pit in your stomach, like maybe like when you're working on your car and you break it immediately and you just broke it, when you're playing with your lime green Game Boy Color and you don't have the battery cover on the back because that's just been gone for 2 years, and you drop the Game Boy and the batteries fly out and you're like, when's the last time I saved, or do I just jump off a cliff?
Yeah. Or you're playing the
it did teach
game.
A very valuable lesson to children of the time about saving your work frequently so you don't lose it.
Progress.
It translates very well to a working system.
I still do that now in autosave realm of Pokemon.
I hate autosave because give me my own autocracy on my saving.
It's removing your agency. Should we move to our personal experience with the games, what we've played in the series? I mean, you two we know have played all of them, but
let's Andrew, Ben, Matt, one of you start off. Start with the game that you played for the pod, and then kind of you just talk about what you liked about it, what you disliked, and any of the other games that you played, kind of in comparison to the modern one that you played.
All right, I'll jump in. I played Pokemon Sword, most recent game, and previously had played Pokemon Red, Gold, Pokemon Stadium here and there, and maybe a day or two of Pokemon Go. So my Pokemon experience definitely has been limited in recent years. But I don't know. I picked up this new game and felt like I was still playing the same thing I played back when I was 8. And I think I totally can understand how you and Joe play Pokemon. And I do get a little bit of that adrenaline hit and dopamine rush on some of when you catch a new Pokemon or you beat a gym leader. But for me, it's just too boring. It doesn't pique my interest enough for me to like go back to it and kind of play in that mindless way. It's just not enough of that dopamine hit for me. I don't know.
You played the last game of like the old model before they go to open zone and then open world.
I don't like the Gigamaxing.
Oh, see, all right. I don't mind that. You didn't play Sun and Moon, so you didn't get Z moves, which were doo-doo and stupid. Mega Evolution's obviously the best. I would say whatever. D-maxing, Dynamaxing.
Dynamax, that's what it is.
Yeah, whatever, the one with the G. I'm stupid. I can't pronounce things.
Dino blow my cock. You know what I mean?
Those, yeah. But regardless, you also, as Joe pointed out earlier, played the game set in the lovely land of England.
Oh, that's right.
In the UK.
England.
Yeah. So you got it's an interesting story in that the legendaries are a sword and a shield. Knights in London, England. But yeah, that game is definitely one of the worst in recent years and has gotten a lot of shit, especially for the map design. Because one thing we haven't talked about, which I think is worth mentioning, some of the games do have good map design. Especially some of the games that Heart Gold, Soul Silver, the original versions of those that go into 2 different maps. But the Galar region in Sword and Shield, the map itself is terrible.
It sucks.
It's terrible to use. The routes are weird. It just wasn't done well. And it was supposed to be based around like the stadiums. But I think they kind of ruined they ruined the fun of running around in that game, because you're very much just limited to that wild area once you've beat the game. There's really nowhere else to explore and continue exploring, because it's just like these weird short routes that lead to the different stadiums. So I definitely feel you there that one, the replayability there is very limited.
And I also think that Pokemon's a psyop to normalize animal violence. So,
well, I can't wait till we get the game where you could shoot them.
Oh, Pal World,
Yes.
World, Pokemon with gun. Yes.
Yeah,
So excited.
I have not heard anything about that in recent months. I should look into that.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I don't think the creators have been disappeared by the Pokemon company by Daddy Nintendo. I don't think
they can. I think it's too different of a game for them, and nothing that's infringing on their copyright or trademarks.
So Mike, given Andrew's background with what he just said, and then he played Sword and Shield, which trash.
Yeah.
What game would you recommend for him to put him back on the Holy Trail?
I mean, honestly, I recommend Black and White for anyone that's like wants to get into Pokemon that's not a baby. That because of the story there, it definitely is interesting. Black and White especially is the first game since the Kanto games where the Pokemon are region locked. So you can only get the Pokemon that are new to Generation 5 in Black and White. So it kind of could bring
That's actually
back
one of
that
my biggest
original.
complaints about the one that I played is that I felt like 80% of the shit I was running into was Gen 1 Pokemon.
Yeah, and so that was one of the things that like changed the formula in Black and White, that people really liked. People did hate at first because they couldn't get their favorite Pokemon, but I think especially for someone that's trying to reintroduce themselves to the games, or that's a good place to start. Like I said, the story's good. They introduce Ultra Beasts, which are kind of cool. They're like a different version of legendaries. Definitely one that's kind of worthwhile to play if you're interested. Got to get a 3DS though, or a DS.
Yeah, that's the thing with the notably shutting down shop.
Yeah, out of curiosity, I looked up how much to get a 3DS, and they're like fucking $300.
Good thing I still have mine.
Meanwhile, I sold mine to GameStop for like $60.
Right, Matt, you want to go next?
Sure, I can go next.
We're technically going in the order of release, because Sword and Shield 2019, true. Matt's got Shining Pearl 2021. Yeah, November 21.
Yes, I played the Pearl remake because that kept me in my my autistic need to play things in order. So I've now played Red, Gold, Omega Ruby, and now Pearl.
Making it through the generations.
Yep.
So Black is next for you.
Yeah, if they make it playable in a way that's convenient for me.
I'll get you an emulator of it.
I have an emulator. It's more of the fact of, do I want to do my time that way?
Ew.
But no, my biggest complaint for Pearl in particular came down to pacing, and the fact that I was like 6+ hours into the game, still running into the same like Geodude, Zubat, and like Bidoof.
Yeah, and that's the biggest complaint of that generation, both in the original.
Like there was no reason for me to explore tall grass or anything like that, because everything was just the same biome. So like once I had my team, I was set.
Yeah, those games pacing were not good at all. Those and
like the gym
Johto
leaders in
regions.
particular, I at no point felt like I was having trouble with any of through the 7. The 7th one had a 4th Pokemon, guys. That's incredible.
Okay, so during your playthrough, did you have XP all on? So after you beat a Pokemon, did everybody in your party get experience?
Yes, because that's how it is to default of the game. I played it to the default.
You got to turn it off. Got to turn it off for the true experience. But that's bad. That is the default. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's been the default now since Sword and Shield.
It's amazing how quickly the Abra who only knows teleport turns into a Kadabra who knows everything else.
Quick question I don't mean to interrupt, but is a good point to ask the question. Mike and Joe, have either of you done things like Nuzlocke runs?
I have not.
I will. During Sword and Shield, I turned off XP all, and then during Diamond, Brilliant, and Shining Pearl and Diamond, I turned off XP all for my experience of the game, because having that XP all on is true. You can get wicked overpowered, and then you're just dominating, and that's not fun.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I had the funny punchy monkey.
That's his name. That's his actual name.
And he pretty much could beat everything by himself. It's like every gym had something he was just strong to and could deal with.
Yeah, I think he was the 2nd of 3 firefighting starters in a row.
Yeah,
he's also like the only fire Pokemon in that game. I've run into like a Ponyta once.
Yeah, I think that's it. Is Ponyta, the monkey line, and maybe Growlithe,
which is wild.
Yeah, I'm looking at the decks right now for that game. No Growlithe, just the Ponyta.
Yeah,
but Gen 4 released Garchomp, and Garchomp is like a staple in the series. So like I can't hate Gen 4 because they did have Garchomp, and I think that Gen 4 kind of still had original designs, like they had Toxicroak. Again, Andrew, Dirty Cash, you don't know what I'm talking about. It's okay.
But you see, the problem,
I think Toxicroak is in
my biggest issue was that how much of it was fighting hybrid.
Right, because there was the poison fighting, there was the steel fighting, there was a lot of fighting.
The Blade is psychic fighting.
Right. But then you get to Gen 5 and then you get to the ice cream cone and the bag of trash. And you're like, all right, where are we going? So I think Gen 4 was kind of the last.
Well, granted,
it's a whole new world, folks.
Granted, Black and White were set in New York City. So the animated garbage does make sense. Very much makes sense.
I'm taking offense to that.
Yeah. Why? You don't live in the city anymore. Can't
you never leave the city.
As an adult, I can definitely see an adult playing these games with that XP all on and feeling overpowered and feeling like, why am I playing this? Because I'm button mashing through the story. All my Pokemon are like level 50 and I'm dominating. I can see that.
I mean, Flame Wheel on Funny Punchy Monkey, who has more speed than anything.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing there. It says speed and then attack. You get a fucking Mach Punch on there. Pow!
Flame Wheel does indeed go burr.
But yeah, so like I played Brilliant Diamond. I got to the same spot as you, Matt, because I was like, I've done this fucking legendary.
Yeah, I defeated like the Team Galactic leader, and he was like, I'm going to the top of the mountain. I was like, that sounds like the place where all I fought was Zubat and Geodude. I don't want
you go to that mountain. I'm gonna stay here and not play this game anymore. But one of the biggest,
I'm pretty sure Team Galactic's whole thing was they wanted to like renewable energy. So I'm pretty sure I was trying to stop people from creating renewable energy.
Stopping eco terrorism.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you are the bad guy.
So when did
enslaving the Pokemon, or you like want to stop?
When did the original Pearl come out?
07, I think.
Pokemon right. 06.
That's like a little bit later than, the 90s was the huge villains. All villains are eco-terrorists.
No, but I mean, right. All of Pokemon.
Final Fantasy 7.
Except Team Rocket isn't, and then Team Rocket is in Johto again. Then it's Team Magma and Team Aqua. They're bad. It's really,
Team Magma and Team Aqua's whole shtick was just like restarting the world, which is like, as generic bad guy as it gets.
Well, and
I preferred whichever one was just the PETA stand-in, where they're like, we shouldn't fight with Pokemon.
That's 5.
All right, is it my turn now?
Go for it.
Okay, so as you already mentioned, I played Legends Arceus for the podcast today. Joe, how do you pronounce it? Do you pronounce it Arceus or Arceus?
Arceus.
So it's like there is no definitive thing. I hear it pronounced both ways, and I myself will pronounce it both ways in the same instant. So yeah, Arceus, whatever you wanna say.
As long as you don't call it Arceus.
Yeah, that's the real sicko one.
Yeah.
Archelius.
Well, that's why I do the hard C. Arceus.
Mike's just start calling it Arceus.
So I was obviously aware of Arceus when it came out, and heard a bunch of praise that it got, that it's changing the formula. It's
Dark Souls Pokemon.
Yeah. So for me, I was just like, okay, I've got to play something now. Like I'd rather play something that's newer. I'd like to have the point of comparison for what they were doing and what they maybe could be doing in the future. Obviously, Scarlet and Violet are proving that they are not really moving in any forward trajectory. But my experience with Arceus was up and down, I guess, is what I'd say. I remember when I first started, the first like 5 hours or so, I was like so upset with how much I was enjoying it. I had plenty of complaints that I'll get to, and that really over the course of it really took me out of it. But I like it was just like I was just like me curmudgeonly, just like, God damn it, this is actually kind of fun, to go out, just kind of be set loose and just
the formula is there,
and just go out and find the Pokemon. It was I have thoughts on like it's kind of some manipulative game design, preying on the worst kind of OCD parts of my brain that are like, yeah, go out and fill this list, fill out the Pokedex. I did like that was that's the core driving thing, right, for the game, is actually filling the Pokedex. Like, I like that they kind of made that as a fundamental piece of the story. But then
it's always technically a fundamental piece of the story.
To me,
it's a little bit different there.
Yeah, to me, it always to me, it always was like, oh yeah, no, the main driving force is becoming the best trainer, and getting all the badges and defeating the Elite Four and all that. Where it's purely we're scientists. We're here to learn about Pokemon and do the research. And I found actually, like, yes, it is like box checking, right? But like I found it was more interesting than literally just go out and catch this Pokemon. It was try to catch them in this different way, and
different ways to check the box
with so there was some kind of creativity going on there. But then it was just like it fucking dragged. It was just everything that they throw at you that takes you away from the bit that it's actually fun. And how you got to go back, you've got to, like, so many fucking loading screens, and incessant dialogue that that's got to take you from one area in Jubilife Village to the next room to this, and like all the little loading screens in between there. It's just like, all these things are just obstacles to having fun. I want to just, come on, let's get through this, let's get back to the actual stuff. But then it also got to the point where, because I am not, a diehard, I'm not really just spending all the amount of time, in each area that I possibly could before progressing the story. I did want to keep moving, and after the first 2 zones or whatever, I kept having to grind. in order to open up the next one, and I found that to be very tiresome. And it was just like, no, I want to progress, I want to keep going. And I didn't find after a while, it's like going into it, I'm like, oh yeah, like I've become such a fan of turn-based combat, in this stage of my life. I've like enjoyed it a lot. Why, like I should look into Pokemon some more and see how I like it. But like the combat is fucking so bad. It's like you're literally, it's like you're either you're one-shotting the enemy or the enemy is one-shotting you. And it's like, and whoever goes first, it's like the speed thing is the only thing that matters. It's like whoever goes first wins.
Well, like you pointed this out, and stating that the point of Arceus, the game, is dex building and collecting. And so the battle mechanics, one, they changed it with that strong and agile stance. But two, they purposely made it it's not a battle intensive game. There is no competitive battling in it like there is in the other mainline games. And so that the battle mechanics do kind of suck, and it is very much a a one shot, two shot type deal that you don't get as much in. You also, part of that, they stripped abilities and items on the Pokemon. So the Pokemon don't have their inherent abilities, which adds to the battle because it's another, thing you have to worry about.
Oh boy, he used Hailstorm from his innate ability to make it snow slightly.
It could be a big thing.
Hail is a serious threat, Matt. All right.
You were taking a golf ball
same thing with items
to the dome.
Same thing with the items on it. You got a fucking focus sash. You're not killing someone in one hit. You got at least two. There's just other battle mechanics that it's missing because, like you said, they're focusing on making it this like open world, open zone, but largely focusing on the catching mechanics rather than any of the battling.
That's why they just need to make everything like the Let's Go games and just skip the animal abuse and just have it be throwing balls at stuff.
I did find the Pokemon Lord boss fights to be kind of fun, pretty fun. Like I only had a couple where I didn't do it immediately on first go. It was mainly it was the first one because it was like I'm just like learning about what the fuck I'm supposed to do. And so I finished the main story, went into end game and tried to finish the end game story, and got to the Giratina boss fight, and was never able to get past the final third stage because I didn't have any max revives. And I'm like, because again, in order to do that,
to get those,
I would have to grind to level up high enough to get the recipe to then craft them, or to like get enough money to buy them. And either way, I'd have to level up high enough so they would either be in the shop or that I could get the recipe to do it. I'm just like, nope, I've put 22, 23 hours into this. Time to move on. So like I didn't get the final real bit of closure on it, but again, for me, it's just like it's the autist part of my brain that's just like, yeah, I started it, I had to finish, I had to at least get to credits, even though like I was not necessarily loving it by the end. But yeah, so that's what I played for the pod. In terms of my original experience, I'm pretty sure Blue was my first one. I remember Blastoise on the big Game Boy cartridge. I remember that. I think I played Red for Game Boy Advance.
Fire Red then.
Fire Red, okay. Because that one, then I remember the Game Boy Advance cartridge for that. I played Sapphire at some point as well, and then you guys all remember in freshman year of high school, we were all playing lacrosse, and when we had our mandated study hall before practice, we like it was the big meta was everybody playing Pokemon, and that was probably the most fun I ever had with Pokemon. Was that
and I'm
time.
glad you brought that up, because this is something I forgot to say at the top, and it probably fits better here. You have to obviously take this with a grain of salt because it is marketing, but the creators of Pokemon, like the developers and whatever, always envisioned Pokemon being a social game. That was like part of the link cables. So, the
Joe,
probably...
do you remember helping me in another study hall that year transfer my Charizard from Fire Red to Pearl? I have a
Diamond. You had Diamond.
Oh, why do you have Pearl?
I changed it to Diamond. Remember, you had Diamond because if you had Pearl, I would have stolen it.
No, I don't remember which one I had.
I remember helping you with that. Let me ask you this: do you guys put bleeps into the podcast?
No.
No, you can curse as much as you want.
No. If I say a name, could you bleep it?
I can.
Yeah,
okay.
Matt's
who is the craziest person that you guys have traded a Pokemon with from growing up? I had a Paris, okay, that traded me, okay?
Hilarious. That's hilarious. That's great.
That Paris was nicknamed the fucker, and that Paris nicknamed the fucker came from my Emerald all the way up to like Sun and Moon. Nice. I transferred it all the way up. You know what I mean? And every time that like Pokemon box came out and you could put your Pokemon up in there, I would transfer it up.
Well, get ready. Tomorrow you could transfer it to Pokemon Home in your Switch.
Right. So, but talking about socially and stuff, right? Like I was trading Pokemon with like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hang out.
You and I used to battle in study hall and like at lunch in Pokemon Diamond.
That's what I'm saying. So I think that Pokemon has been an extremely social game. And that's also that, and then the meta, which is something not for casual people, Andrew. So that the meta is like a whole other thing with the various video game competitions and stuff. That's something that other games don't have as strong of a meta as Pokemon has. And then you get into the cards. And Andrew, you're telling me you've never tucked in with just like a drink and just sat at your computer for 4 hours watching people open Pokemon cards? You're out of your goddamn mind, Andrew, because that's some of the best YouTube watching ever.
See,
for real. I've been opening the cards.
That was a point that I wanted to make, is that I remember I have much more nostalgia and positive feelings about the cards, even though I never played the card game.
I don't think anyone ever actually played the card game. The card game wasn't part of the thing. You just opened the card packs, looked at them.
You looked at them
and trade them with your friends.
Trading them with your friends. That was like a big thing. But then it also was the anime as well. It was just a big thing for me. I have more memories of the show than I do of
my favorite memory of the show was them brutally twisting my memory of what a jelly donut is supposed to be.
Where would you guys, if I said, hey, where did you buy Pokemon cards as a kid? Where did you get those from? Where do you remember buying packs of cards?
Yeah, Toys R Us, Walmart.
Toys R Us.
I did not. I know. I think I know where.
There was a store in the Watch Factory that sold cards.
The Watch Factory is the answer. If you get your Pokemon cards from those two stores in the Watch Factory,
I got Yu-Gi-Oh cards there.
Or that was our friendly local game store, right?
Or the flea market behind the Oakdale.
Yep.
Just doing laps looking for a Zapdos. You know what I mean? What a time.
No, but so, all of this to say, I do think that part of my love of Pokemon was the social aspect of it. Like Joe and I were, battling, playing. Joe, you mentioned in the notes here, like you watch Small Ant do like Nuzlocks, but he also does battles. There's other YouTubers that are constantly like doing different battles and shit with friends, and it's like the social aspect of between the YouTubers and then also their community. So I do think that at its core, a lot of the fun and like nostalgia for Pokemon is that social aspect. And Pokemon Go even brought that back in 2016 with
Pokemon Go was a virus.
Do we but can we talk about this though? Like it was the summer of 2016. This is the before 4 times where this was probably like the last glimmer of hope that so many of us in our generation possibly had. I still remember, going around, New York City and Central Park, and not just Central Park, just all these areas.
Chatting with people that were also, you could tell they were catching something.
The atmosphere, in New York City completely changed overnight. Like it went from, fuck you, I'm walking here, to oh my God, there's a fucking Snorlax. Come on, everybody.
I mean, even like, because I was living in Montpelier at the time, there was so much of Montpelier where you'd be out walking and people in their car would slow down and be like, is there something good? Should I pull over?
It's like, it was the rare moment where you thought world peace was possible.
The day
it was bringing people together.
2 weeks after Pokemon Go came out, I got on a plane and I was in Qatar for 6 months on an Air Force base in Qatar, right? And on that base, the living area was like a rectangle and people would run around that rectangle. You know what I mean? I ran over 400 miles on that deployment, just doing laps to hatch eggs so I could try to evolve
using the pedometer thing. Yeah.
Just so that I could get a Vaporeon, because all the Pokemon out there were rock Pokemon. And for 6 months, I dominated those gyms out there. Dominated. I would wake up and I would go put my Pokemon back in the gym. That was the first experience with Pokemon Go. But then, because we're talking about the social aspect, have you guys all seen the movie The Train to Busan?
Yes.
Yes.
Train to Busan is a Korean film about Korean zombies. Okay.
Fantastic.
So I was in South Korea for a year from 2017 to 2018. Pokemon Go has community days. And so on like every Saturday for a couple hours is a community day. And so special Pokemon would spawn, right? And so me and my friends went up to Suwon, and Suwon is just another city. And you could take the train up there. We were at Osan Air Base. And so there's like a 20-minute train ride. And there was like a really nice park, and we saw the park on Google Maps, and we were like, all right, there's got to be Pokestops there. You know what I mean? We get there, and when I tell you it was just a wave of Korean zombies, everybody staring at their phone. One dude had on a stick 6 cell phones, all tied to power cables, just spinning, swiping. And we were up there for the Larvitar Community Day. And so there was a 98 IV Larvitar, and someone shouted out 98%. And thousands of Korean people all swarmed one corner of the park to try to catch this Larvitar, and that was the community, because there it didn't matter who you were, everybody just wanted that one Larvitar. And when we would do Mewtwo or Kyogre raids there, everybody was so stoked to see that you got either a shiny or 100% IV, and that was where I got my 100% IV Mewtwo in Pokemon Go. I have 2 of them. Andrew, you wouldn't know, casual. That Mewtwo I got there, I caught it, and when a legendary appears in Pokemon Go, you can tell it's IVs based off of its level when you catch it in the raid. And we do the raid, Mewtwo pops up. At the time, I wasn't great at throwing the balls. Now I can, but there was like this master Korean dude who was old as fuck, ripping cigarettes with wicked dry skin, and he was like, "Give me the phone," and I gave him my phone, and he caught me that Mewtwo in like 2 throws. And it's just, It was insane. So Pokemon Go in Korea was like at its peak, was unreal, dude.
I think everyone's Pokemon Go experience varies widely based on where you were. Because if you were in somewhere rural with less of a population, Pokemon Go became hatching eggs was your only viable means of doing anything of merit.
I do remember, this was even just going from, New York City to our suburban, Connecticut.
Central Connecticut hellscape.
was which was by no means rural in any sense, was such a drastic shift. I remember I would have to go to the fucking library. That was the only Pokestop around, and just when I would go home for a weekend, and it was just like it felt barren. It was
well, it's like trying to organize a raid up here was pretty much impossible with like how little time you had once the raid opened up. And the amount of people who would be like, "Oh yeah, I'll be there in 30 minutes," and so you sit there waiting for 30 minutes, and then they call you again. They're like, "Well, I can't be there for another 45 minutes, so the raid's going to be over. Done." Yeah.
I just want to point something out that Joe
had his stats in there, and I want him to read them out loud for the pod, so I could read mine back, just so we can get a dichotomy of.
Yeah,
I could pull mine up.
I also wanted to say that in Korea too, talking about raids and stuff, I would go to like Hongdae or like just like, you know, some part of Seoul.
That's not a real place.
Okay, people got arrested in Hongdae, but I would go somewhere in Seoul, and I would basically go to where all the gyms were. And again, you know, big loser talk, but this is a safe space. On those big legendary days when like there was going to be eggs that day, I'd wake up at like 6. I'd take the hour train to Seoul and get there for like 8 o'clock, or I'd take a bus up there, whatever. I would get like a sweet coffee or whatever. I'd have my backpack on with like 2-3 battery packs in there, my cell phone out, and it was Pokemon Go day. And once the eggs start popping, those raid lobbies would fill up in a second. 20 people, boom. Next lobby, 20 people, boom. And just everybody's that was when spoofing was still big, but there were still people hanging out, walking around. And from one egg, you would see a whole mass of people. It was a bunch of Koreans. It was probably one very overweight Caucasian man who had a bunch of neck hair, who was breathing heavy as shit. Don't know how he was in Korea. But this mob would move from gym to gym. And like, it was just mutual respect. It was unreal. But my stats for Pokemon Go, total caught is 53,729.
I'm pulling mine up now.
Total distance traveled is 10,000 kilometers, no spoofing. I visited 30,970 Pokestops. I'm only level 44 because I've slowed down playing in the past year. And I have 43 100% IV Pokemon, including 2 Mewtwo's, a Kyogre, a Tyranitar, and a Lucario.
All right. In comparison, I played since launch. Air quotes on since launch, since there's like multiple gap years in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I've only done 2,400 kilometers, caught 9,200 Pokemon, and visited 7,100 Pokestops.
Oh, you have me beat.
Wow.
I mean, there was a lot of that where we'd be traveling for work and I'd be like, oh my God, we're in Chicago. And I would roam the streets of Chicago with my phone out, actively advertising myself to be robbed, wearing like a shoddy tuxedo.
Mm-hmm. So I'm at 1,800 kilometers walked, 7,038 Pokemon caught, 6,900 Pokestops visited, nice. And I'm level 34.
I'm level 36. I should have also said.
I'm a weakling over here.
I
have many more hours.
I did like it because it incentivized me to go walk a lot. And then when that went away, I gained 40 pounds, and there's no other reason that could have possibly happened.
I got to throw this out there too, because Pokemon Go has the nature of region locked Pokemon. And just because of the nature of my job, I know people on a bunch of the continents right now. You know what I mean? And so you already know that I would give them my account information, let them log in to go catch me a Torkoal.
I caught you a Dragonite when we
correct,
did that.
And you caught me a Tauros because I was overseas and I couldn't catch Tauros because you were in America.
You know what? I caught you that Dragonite because I was logged into your account when that popped up. It was like right around the corner from my house. I caught it. I went to log into mine, logged in, fucking was able to get the encounter, but then it ran away.
So you see, my favorite Pokemon Go memory was when I was working at GE, big daddy GE, big company, big military contracts. And I watched someone go, yo, there's an Aerodactyl in the lobby. And you watched like 30 to 40 grown ass dudes make their way over to the lobby in some form of shuffle run to not look out of place. Abiding the safety on the shop floor.
In Pokemon Go, do you still have your starter?
Yes,
I believe so. Yes,
because if you go to your Pokemon and filter it by recent, but like do it the other way, it'll show you your oldest. The one thing about Pokemon Go was that it didn't incentivize you to keep your starter, and I thought that was like the biggest plight against God. That like you wouldn't do that in the Pokemon game. I was like appalled by it, and so I always made sure to keep my starter. And then like within Pokemon Go, the older a Pokemon is, if you trade it with somebody, it's a better chance to get a lucky trade. So it incentivizes you to keep Pokemon for like years and years. The whole Pokemon Go world is insane, and Niantic has done some fuckery with it, which is really sad because it has opportunities to be like a really good game. But for somebody who
is on the go, and I might not have the space to carry around like a Switch or like a gamepad with me and stuff, Pokemon Go definitely helps to kind of scratch that itch.
I do not have my starter. I may have it in Pokemon Home though. I might have traded it or transferred it out of Go. I do have a Charmander from like 20 days after that I have as a Charizard right now.
So Joe, what has been your experience with the current releases? As a diehard fan, where so what were your opinions of Arceus? And you've already said you're not a fan of Scarlet and Violet, but I'd like to understand.
Did you play Scarlet and Violet yet?
So I'm not here to lie. Okay, I'm an honest person. I did not play Legends of Arceus, and I did not play Scarlet and Violet, but I did watch walkthroughs of it. And I was not impressed with Legends of Arceus because it wasn't really truly like a core release, even though it's listed as a core release. It seemed like a lot of they would put a waypoint up and you would go to that waypoint.
It is that, yeah.
It is that, right?
I mean, like they put a waypoint, but then you don't have to go there, obviously.
Right.
You can just go do whatever you want in the region.
Right, but like for example, in Pokemon Emerald, after you got the 4th badge, if you didn't know that you had to surf east of Mauville City, you're just like, where do I go? And I think that's a really important element of it, right? And so I don't want a waypoint, and then I don't want all my Pokemon to get XP from me killing one Pokemon. That doesn't make any sense to me. And then for Scarlet and Violet, I did just move back to America and I bought a house, and then my wife is growing a child, and I just haven't had a chance to play it yet, truly.
But that's fair. But like, hey, save your time.
I was gonna make the joke that the year you toned down Pokemon Go, you're now having a child.
You'll be getting Scarlet or Violet and playing it. You will.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, especially with some travel coming up, and I'll be able to give it like a better look then. But I did play Sword and Shield, and I did play Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and like I did play Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, and they had some cool mechanics.
Did you have the Pokeball controller?
I did have it. Didn't love it. It was okay.
I also had the Pokeball controller and didn't love it, so we can bond in solidarity over that.
And now it's just sitting in a box with all the other electronic refuse and just random accessories.
Yeah, but you had to get it because it was the only way to get Mew.
Had to get it. But yeah, Scarlet and Violet are on the list to play. But now I experience Pokemon really through Pokemon Go, and then through YouTube content like Smallant, like people doing Nuzlocke challenges or people showing how they can break the game. But again, once I saw the motorcycle dragon and people trying to like get to new areas in the game because it's broken by just going around gates and stuff, like that's not the Pokemon that I would enjoy playing.
There's people that are going through. You could like go through the walls into the locked areas and like explore it.
People are clipping through the walls on day one.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like you could
You
could purposely clip through to like go through what is going to be part of the DLC area, and people are like exploring that. You could clip into buildings that have like unused insides, which
sounds like a greatly optimized gaming experience.
Yeah.
It was so well optimized they actually had to lower the spawn count of Pokemon.
Exactly what I was gonna say. They ended up not lowering it by much, but whatever. It's 15 now is the spawn count on the screen. I think it was like 20 beforehand. But yeah, the one thing I wish they left from Arceus that they didn't. Well, two things: the roll, or like the dodge. And catching Pokemon without having to battle them. I really enjoyed that.
Being able to aggro Pokemon in the wild,
and just throw a ball at them. Yeah, that was
Mike just wants to play this Far Zone.
Well, as Far Zone, you still had to encounter them. I do wish that you could throw Pokeballs off of the rideable Pokemon, other than the swimming one.
I have like one like kind of last thought about this whole series, and say it's worth going off from the Pokemon Go discussion. We're joking around to say like the social aspect is great. I'm not gonna deny that, and with our limitations and our kind of general sense of powerlessness in our, kind of culture now. Like, what else are we going to get? But like, it's just like, imagine if we took that energy and that sense of solidarity and put it to something else, like, political organizing.
Someone mute Ben's mic. Mute Ben.
You had it almost right, but then you said political organizing. The real answer is Digimon. Put all this effort towards Digimon. Digital monsters.
I do think that this like idea of solidarity or like community through Pokemon that the like developers supposedly were trying to put forth, in its inception, which at least in the inception I do believe, because I forget the name of the creator, but he was turned down by other studios. This really was like his pet project, I think it is interesting that it came out of Japan. That like, this is not that idea of like community and like being able to execute on it in some way that is like meaningful to the extent that you want to say like, Pokemon Go community or, just like Pokemon community is meaningful in people's lives. I think it is
go to the polls.
I think it is interesting that it is a Japanese creation. Like it definitely is not something that an American mind could at that time conceive of and execute on. I think it is interesting and important that it was a Japanese company. It came from a Japanese mind, trying to bring community and like a social aspect to a game.
So I'm really good at connecting the dots here, and I think that the two dots that we need to connect are the way to deal, or the best art comes from dealing with the terrible loss through nuclear strike. So
we just need to drop some more nukes to get some better game franchises.
Damn, is China gonna make Pokemon 2 next year? It's crazy.
Oh man.
All right. Any other final thoughts before I hit him with the plugs?
No, just that Joe and I need to do some of our episodes on our own, just chatting about Pokemon. Feel like we could have gone for about 3 more hours if we really wanted.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, poor editing.
I think that the final thought is that what would get me back in is going to be a game with multiple regions that has like a comprehensive way to weave that together without just having overpowered level 70 Pokemon by like the 16th gym. That would be like the ultimate. I don't know if we'll ever get there without it being modded or anything, but that's the goal.
One thing I want to bring up, and this is definitely more for another episode on its own, but there is the community of like hacked ROMs and like hacked Pokemon games, which are completely fan.
Oh yes, my favorite. Versions. Nintendo loves the ROM community.
Yeah, or there's like Pokemon Infinite Fusion, which is had a new update that is very, very popular amongst like the YouTubers, and there's a whole meta around that, and that does go to a few regions and incorporate the base of the game is Fire Red, Leaf Green, but they do incorporate other DS map things and whatever from other generations into that game, and I think that is Joe, that might be a one for you to jump into and play around with, and it is cool that you get to fuse Pokemon.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, first off, we'll say thank you to Joe for joining us today. It was a real treat. We appreciate you coming on.
Been great. Thanks, gents.
Maybe if there's ever another franchise that you feel as passionate about, we would love to have you back.
Or just look out for our spin-off series on Pokemon.
If you want to talk about all these biome updates in Minecraft about terracotta, you just let me know.
All right. But so now it's just time for plugs. Be sure to follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/campaign comrades. We stream every week, although I'm personally feeling like I might dip my toe in and experiment, see what engagement's like on just streaming on YouTube.
Do it.
But also check out the YouTube page. First actual long form YouTube video is up and live.
I do find the the irony of first actual long form video, but every
It's
video
shorter than
before
most.
this is like
It's longer
3
than-
hours, 2.5 hours.
Because I don't count stream VODs as the same thing. This is basically a video essay where I do a deep dive into a review of gameplay, but also of the politics of the recent release Atomic Heart. So go check that out on our YouTube page. Just search Campaign Comrades on YouTube. Socials, CampCom Pod on Twitter. We're not very active there, should be, but we're not. Mike, any so you plug in the TCG player or no?
I'm gonna plug my YouTube. I mean, not my YouTube, my eBay page. Cut the Mic Gaming, selling some Pokemon there. 6 IVs, shiny, whatever you want. You can customize it. You let me know. I give it to you. Okay, $1.50. I get you.
This is the time to interject here. This is actually an intervention episode.
So yeah, Mike. This was a safe space. It is no longer. We're here to break you from the grip that Pokemon has on you. Spending 300 plus hours. Putting 300 plus hours in Pokemon Scarlet, not healthy. Putting it down there now.
Real friends don't let real friends do that.
Yeah. But that'll do it for us on this episode. I think we're back to our schedule was a little bit tweaked because we reorganized things to fit around our adaptation episode last week for Last of Us. So I think are off next week. I'll have to look at my calendar, and then news episode coming out end of the month or something. I don't quite remember.
No, we're news episode next week.
News episode next week. All right. So we will be covering.
It's news adaptation, then off. We usually have off before the game episode, but we did.
Right. So I guess we're back to the regular.
Yes.
The regular schedule. So be on the lookout for that next week, but we'll cover all our top stories from the past month. But till then, good night and good gaming, folks. Love you very much. Bye.